here's Brody Brazil.
So a third Norris Trophy this past hockey season for San Jose Sharks defenseman Erik Karlsson. Not only that, but he was recently overseas to take possession of what I'm pretty sure right there is his third Golden Puck award. This is handed out annually in the country of Sweden to the nation's best hockey player. And look, after 82 games and a 101-point campaign, no surprise, EK65 adding a little bit more hardware to his mantle. Now, he was out there with his family, hopefully seeing more family and friends and having a good time and enjoying the summer. But Karlsson also did a pretty revealing interview in Swedish. Now, this happens commonly with European hockey players in the NHL. When they go back home, and usually in a different language, they seem to say more. And I'm not suggesting he's holding anything back doing an interview in the United States or in North America. It just feels like players seem a little bit more comfortable to truly open up and say more when they're back home and feel more at home in an interview type situation. So I want to show you some of the excerpts of this interview and as it relates to the Sharks, and maybe nothing surprising, but it paints even a more accurate picture than I think we've ever seen before. The interview, by the way, comes from Expressen.se. And again, all of this has been translated, so please take it for what I think and internet translation thinks it's worth. Here's one of the questions. Obviously, the Sharks are in a rebuild right now. Would you be okay with staying with the organization for the 4 seasons remaining on your deal, given where you are in your career? I see the answer. I'll read the answer. I can already tell you, optimally, no. I think it's been made pretty straightforward that the Sharks want to move on and Erik Karlsson wants to move on. But here's what he says, quote, "No, I am not," as in okay with staying with the organization for the rest of his contract, which is 4 more years, right? That's a lot more time. "I like San Jose and I like it there, but I've never been able to win before. I want that chance now that I'm at the end of my career." I think he's got some more years left. I don't know that he's at the exact end, but time is ticking. I totally understand that. "I have been open about that with Mike Grier, general manager Mike Grier, from the first day he started. He hasn't had any problems with it. We understand each other, and we will do so regardless of what happens in the future," end quote. Look, I appreciate that from both ends. And I think Mike Grier would say the same things about trying to get a deal done, trying to get something that makes sense done. He knows he's got an asset in Karlsson that a lot of teams saw last year. EK65 showcased himself beautifully, healthy again, all 82 games, 100-point season on a very rough San Jose team. So look, I know a lot of people saw this comment and were like, whoa, he wants to be traded right now. But I don't know that should come as a surprise to anybody. I think he said this in a very high road, classy type way. And I think it's obvious to all of us that the sooner the Sharks can move on and EK65 move on, it's a win for everybody. The next question, do you want to go to a specific place, team, division, or conference? Now, that would seem like showing your hand in a card game, right? Yes, of course. I would like to go to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Yes, I would like to go to the, you name it. So here's Karlsson's response. Quote, "No, I am open in this process. I don't have a chosen destination. I just want the best chance to get the best team. Where it is, well, we'll see. I think San Jose appreciated that I was honest with them because this is a complicated thing to go through. I make what I make, and the salary cap, $83.5 million next season, has barely gone up in 3 years, which is true. It's only gone up about $1 million each of the last few years. And traditionally, it's more of a $2 to $3 million jump. So it allows more flexibility that almost all teams don't have right now. The salary cap has barely gone up in 3 years, so the money is starting to run out a little here and there. And I don't think he means specifically for the Sharks. I think he's talking about other teams and their flexibility of taking on another contract. And I think we've all known this is a difficult puzzle piece to move. It's an interesting puzzle piece and a compelling puzzle piece, but it's got a lot of unique shapes and curves that just don't fit everywhere. Pittsburgh is the question, is reported to be first in line right now. Have you talked to them? Karlsson says, yes, I have. I've talked to some teams. Pittsburgh is one of them. I played against them for many years, and have a good grasp of that group of players that are there. And again, I just feel like in a more North American situation, if this question is asked, I don't know if it goes into that much detail or if there's even acknowledgement of that. I think it's a maybe, or I think it's deflected into, I've talked to a lot of teams. Was Pittsburgh one? I've talked to a lot of teams. You know what I'm saying? So it's more than I expected. Okay, here's a long question and answer response here. Is that the team's new general manager, Kyle Dubas, you spoke to then, or Jason Spezza, who you played with in Ottawa, right? The GM and assistant GM relationship there. Me and Spezza have talked a lot, but we have been friends since before. There's been no business there. We also talked when he was in Toronto. It's more on a friendship level, I'd say. I've talked to the people I need to talk to in Pittsburgh, and Dubas is, of course, one of them. It feels like I've tried to get as much information as I can from the teams that are interesting, how they look at me, what they want. I'll try to make a decision based on the information I received. I want to make the best decision for me and my family if this goes all the way. And when he talks about decision there, I think it's also important to note, his contract stipulates that he does have some say in this. But I think the good news in everything here, Karlsson is motivated to move. And I don't think so long as there's something reasonable on the table and he can go to a competitive team, I don't think he's going to stand in the way of any of these options right here. Pittsburgh didn't make the playoffs. Obviously, their run ended, but they're still loaded with a hockey player and a name and a couple names you may be familiar with. That's always going to be enticing. Toronto, always enticing. Seattle, interesting, right? Third year of existence, made the playoffs, on the upswing, definitely have, at least for right now, the ability financially to do this. Let's see how that shakes out. Carolina has become and emerged as an every year playoff competitive team. So, boy, would that be interesting? Karlsson and Burns on the same blue line again. These are the reported frontrunners. Is there somebody else? Maybe, but it would seem to me at this point, knowing how this has evolved and developed, I would have to think that the Sharks know what all of these teams would be offering in return. I'd have to think that all of these teams right here, know what the Sharks would like to get as a return, and maybe what salary might be retained on Erik Karlsson. That's a whole nother aspect. Didn't really talk about here. Karlsson is motivated, but it's going to take some motivation by the Sharks to not only make this happen, but also to figure out what they're willing to take on money-wise on his contract, a certain percentage. So all of this to say that Erik Karlsson is motivated to move. And it's a unique situation, right? You don't really ever have it where a team and a player are so open and honest about this. We're going to try and make this happen. Both sides want this to happen. Both sides are cordial about this happening. Karlsson is pretty straightforward. I like the fact that he's not hiding this or not, unwilling to talk about it. He's doing quotes right there. It came from a unique spot overseas. Maybe he was really relaxed, and maybe at this point he figures, why not let a little bit of information out there and try and facilitate this process and move things along. Thumbs up on this video since you made it here all the way to the end. I appreciate that. Put your comments down below, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you're not already. That way, I can definitely see you back here next time.